Smollett. Prosecutors now charging him with a felony
for allegedly filing a false police report as the black gay actor claimed he was attacked last month by two Trump supporters who he claimed beat him, doused him with bleach, and put a noose around his neck. Police later identified black acquaintances of Smollett, brothers, who sources say told police Jussie paid them to take part in the attack, and a death threat letter sent to Smollett days earlier.
Fox's Jeff Manasso in Chicago. Smollett's attorneys say they will mount an aggressive defense of the actor, and like everyone else, he's innocent until proven guilty. Federal prosecutors say an active duty Coast Guard lieutenant in Maryland is a domestic terrorist. The self-proclaimed white nationalist will be arraigned Thursday on gun and drug charges, but prosecutors say that is just the tip of the iceberg.
The FBI arrested Coast Guard Lieutenant Christopher Paul Hassan after agents discovered weapons in his Silver Spring apartment with plans to carry out a large-scale terror attack in the nation's capital against politicians and journalists. Hassan had stockpiled 15 firearms since 2017. Also discovered a spreadsheet with a hit list including House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and on-air personalities from MSNBC and CNN.
Fox's Lucas Tomlinson. Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi is urging members of Congress to support a resolution to block the president's declaration of a national emergency to build a wall with Mexico. The resolution may be filed Friday, and if the House approves it, it must still pass the Senate and get by a likely presidential veto. Crude oil futures posted their best finish in 3 months as supplies rose. Crude gained 1.5% on Wednesday to $56.92 a barrel. This is Fox News.
This is Ray Gibson from The Morning Show on 93.3 The Point. And we're celebrating our 1-year anniversary this February. The Point is your news talk headquarters with top news, sports, weather, and traffic. And, of course, always a little extra. We want to thank our listeners, fans, and followers for keeping us on our toes and joining us on this journey. The Ray Gibson Show Anniversary Celebration is brought to you by Take Care, our island, your health plan.
Hi, welcome to this Subway ad for our all-new Ultimate Cheesy Garlic Bread. How would you like it?
I'll take a skeptical grandma.
Set in her ways?
A smidge.
Grandma, try this Ultimate Meatball Marinara made with Ultimate Cheesy Garlic Bread. Melted mozzarella, Parmesan, garlic butter spread. It's just like yours.
Like mine? My grandmother's recipe?
Try it.
You know, my grandmother's cheesy garlic bread was never all that.
Subway, make it what you want. Limited time only at participating restaurants.
Opinion.
The attorney who filed a $250 million lawsuit on behalf of Kentucky high school student Nick Sandmann wants to punish the Washington Post for allegedly targeting the teen. Lynn Wood says the paper's coverage was tinged with political bias.
There is no argument that Nick Sandmann and the Covington Catholic kids were vilified by numerous media outlets, including the Washington Post, after cell phone video showed Sandmann staring down Native American Nathan Phillips. And the lawsuit filed by the Sandmann family says the Washington Post used its, quote, vast financial resources to enter the bully pulpit by publishing a series of false and defamatory print and online articles which effectively provided a worldwide megaphone to smear a young boy who was, in its view, an acceptable casualty in their war against the president.
Fox's Trace Gallagher. The Washington Post says it's reviewing a copy of the lawsuit and will mount a vigorous defense. President Trump sets up another battle with California, this time over the state's ability to impose its own environmental regulations for vehicles.
Natural Resources Defense Counsel attorney David Pettit says this means both sides are probably headed now for a court fight. He says the Trump administration, in defense of automakers, likely got stuck on California's rules over how many zero-emission vehicles need to be made and sold.
That, I think, is a thorn in the side of the auto industry because they'll tell you that they're losing money on those.
California already sued last year when the Trump administration said it wanted to freeze mileage and emission standards and take away California's ability to set its own emission standards through a waiver. Jessica Rosenthal, Fox News.
And a devastating fire raced through buildings in the old part of Bangladesh's capital, killing at least 70 people and injuring 50 others. I'm Carmen Roberts, and this is Fox News.
On March 9th, join Bank of Guam for the EFIT Run and Block Party to benefit Guam Cancer Care and American Cancer Society. Our Sunset 2K and 5K run will start at Chamorro Village with showtime at 4 and go time at 5. And don't forget about our block party starting at 4 o'clock, complete with food trucks, a kids zone, live entertainment, and a beer garden, so don't forget your ID. This is a bring your own water bottle event. The EFIT Run and Block Party, Saturday, March 9th. Bank of Guam, member FDIC.
When your family needs medical care, how often do you find the need to visit multiple clinics? When a child has a serious ailment, do you find yourself meeting a medical provider only to learn you must go somewhere else for testing? At the FHP Health Center, you can find multiple specialties and testing services under one roof. And if your family needs urgent care, FHP is there for you with convenient weekday, evening, and weekend hours. Voted the island's best clinic in Pika's Best 2 years in a row. FHP, our island, your clinic. Learn more at fhpguam.com. Welcome to Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie, the only show on talk radio where common sense is a lot more common. Phone lines are now open at 888-TALK. That's 888-8255. And now, The Point proudly brings you Tall Tales with Senator Bob Klitzkie. And now, sitting in for the vacationing Bob Klitzkie, here's Daryl Taggarty.
A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Welcome to Tall Tales for Thursday, February 21st. Bob Klitzkie will be returning from his vacation in 2 weeks, in 14 days. Yeah, looking forward to that. As much as I love being with you on a weekday afternoon from 4 until 6, I am really looking forward to the return of Bob Klitzkie so I can get his perspective on the happenings of the day. Lots going on in our community, and if you've got something on your mind, by all means, bring it to the rest of us here at 888-8255 or on Facebook Live. Got comments already. Let's see. Ray Gibson's with us right now. He's wondering what's going on with the hard hat. Is the sky falling? Is the sky falling? Nah, the sky's not falling. I just rushed in the door. And this hat is not, for those of you on Facebook Live, this is not because I'm concerned about something falling out of the sky, the wrench out of left field hitting me in the head, because although I am prepared. No, I've been examining the efforts of our government to use private contractors to make sure that our wastewater flows downhill in a federally compliant manner. Absolutely. I've been on a tour and getting down into the weeds, so to speak. I am clean. It's a construction project. Nothing flowing. I didn't have to get into the process. Well, without telling you too much about it, I was there. I was at Baza Gardens, a pumping plant, and also the Agate Santa Rita wastewater treatment plant that's under construction now. And I just came flying up from there. Had enough time to grab a cup of coffee and kiss the wife and zip into the studio here to be with you on Tall Tales. So thank you very much for joining. We're going to, I still haven't applied for my gun permit, and I have 2 weeks to do it, right? And I'll do it right here on Tall Tales. I'll be bringing to you the blow-by-blow. We have a couple of items here for Zami Ekatni. I don't have an item for Second Amendment, but of course this week we have had a number of reasons to have to think about the Second Amendment, which is the tragedy of a person who's fully within his rights to carry a firearm but not acting responsibly, and the community being rightfully concerned about this. At some point there is there is a reason for regulation and for standards for use. And also Senator St. Augustine's efforts now through Bill 47-35 to expand the Castle Doctrine to include, to eliminate a duty to retreat. And so enough to think about. Enough to think about. Also, anyone who's concerned about shooting range may not have to worry too much about it, since the funding's been pulled for the military buildup effort, and that is something that is well, some may think the sky's falling, and certainly anyone who was counting on a huge flow of construction dollars in this community is thinking that either the rug just got pulled out from under them or the sky is falling. So we can talk about that or whatever else is on your mind here on Tall Tales. But that's why the reflective vest and the hard hat, because construction really does improve our infrastructure and the strength of our buildings and the processes that we depend on to have a modern, clean community. And so in honor of that, I am here in my inappropriate dress, and with nothing but compliments for the folks who are doing this kind of work. Let's see, and if I need to, I can always fall back to construction trades. Dami Ikatni. In the news today, in our editorial columns, the Pacific Daily News is saying a public health risk of 12,000 needed, only 1,200 inspections made. And the Guam Daily Post editorial is entitled, Behind the Scenes, Port Moves Contradict Transparency Promise. And so we're going to take a look at these two editorials and see just what it means to us and how is the editorial sensibility of the two primary local newspapers, our daily newspapers, how are they feeding our heads? You know, as the Dormouse said, feed your head. A public health risk, the Pacific Daily News on page 20. The acting director of the Department of Public Health and Social Services wants to ensure that public health inspections to comply with local statutes. No, wants to ensure that public health inspections to comply with local statutes, which is a good thing. Sorry, guys, I can only read, but I can't. I should probably do the proofreading on this stuff too. The acting director of the Department of Public Health and Social Services wants to ensure that public health inspections there's a verb missing, are performed to comply for our local businesses to comply with local statutes, which is a good thing. Acting Director Linda Umpinko DeNorsi said public health should be inspecting establishments once every quarter. The main stumbling block is that the agency doesn't have enough inspectors to routinely check out the island's 3,000 or so restaurants, barbershops, beauty salons, school cafeterias, mom-and-pop stores, grocery stores, hotels, motels, laundry facilities, and public swimming pools, among others. There are more. That's 12,000 inspections needed annually. Public Health has only been able to perform about 1,200 inspections, or about 10%, according to DeNorsi. The agency only has about a dozen inspectors, and it doesn't have the funding needed to hire more staff. DeNorsi said that there is some funding from fees collected through sanitary permits, health certificates, and other areas, but the money goes into the general fund. She'd like there to be a separate account for the money, which then could be used to hire more inspectors. But the government of Guam is in a nearly perpetual financial crisis. Another editing change. It's unlikely elected officials will take money from the general fund, even if the funding would improve the ability of public health to perform needed inspections. Given the lack of personnel, public health usually only inspects food establishments after a complaint has been registered. That translates into a very real public health risk. The lack of regular inspections means there aren't any preventive measures to protect the public. Food establishments infested by roaches or other vermin can serve up food that could make people ill. The community expects the government to take the basic measures needed to ensure that the public health standards established in law are met. Until there are more inspectors hired and regular inspections conducted, public health and elected officials will be derelict in their duty to protect our community. And at the very bottom of the article, they provide some information. To file a complaint, a sanitation-related complaint with the Department of Public Health and Social Services, call the Division of Environmental Health at 735-7221. Besides the need to having to proofread the article, which is kind of a minor irritant, but I expect standard English to be used when I'm reading a newspaper. Yes, there is a lack of inspectors, but those inspectors are checking out tips, and they are also doing spot checks. And there's the opportunity. It may be that you don't only inspect and then call on the business to correct. The penalty should not be just correct the deficiencies. There should be a fine. Oh, you had an A and now you have an F? Well, here's a $1,000 fine. And you won't get your business license. It's suspended until you pay it. So on top of the, couple $1,000 they have to shell out to correct the deficiencies that they should have been spending the whole time, they have to pay $1,000 to the government of Guam. Now that is a penalty, and that penalty could drive compliance. So it may be that depending on the size of the business, the amount of revenue being brought in by the establishment, that we all know that there's got to be some basic amount that needs to be spent on sanitation and rodent control and the like, insect control, in order to remain compliant with public health food handling regulations. And we're just talking about food handling. We aren't talking about, we could still talk about barbershops and beauty salons and what else? Let's see, public swimming pools, mom and pop stores, school cafeterias. Well, how are you going to find the school cafeteria? Hotels and motels. They're making money. The fine should be proportionate to the amount of money they make. It should be enough to hurt. And then you'll get compliance. Because if somebody complains and the inspectors come and they find that there is reason to, with their inspection, to cause a demotion to the point of closing down until the deficiencies are corrected, then it's going to sting, really sting. And marginal businesses that are cutting corners because their businesses are so marginal that they are slacking off on sanitation and meeting standards, then they really are not viable, and they should be gone. So it's a good article. I've been on the receiving end of an inspection, and I've treated it just like an audit. There are people who will tell you whether you are fully compliant or not. And so And the reason that we have these inspections is to protect the public, because the public is relying on on businesses' reputation and representation that they are fully compliant and that sanitary measures are in businesses. There shouldn't be an incentive for finding fault, because it's perverse. People should be paid to do their jobs, go out and do their jobs, and they are funded. But the fines will amplify the process of having inspections and compliance, so that you don't need to add people, because the penalty for being found out is high enough to be a deterrent. And so deterrence is going to be really the key here. So thank you, PDN, for raising this issue and bringing it to everyone's attention. And let's take a look at what the Guam Daily Post has to say about behind-the-scenes port moves contradict transparency promise. And that is on page 24 of today's Guam Daily Post. Now we know that new Port Authority of Guam General Manager Rory Respicio didn't just casually and preliminarily approach a business's co-owner without the Port Board's required approval to go into settlement talks over the business's $17 million disputed claim against the agency. On February 12th, Respicio told the Port Authority Board that his recent conversation with Guam YTK Corporation co-owner Eduardo Champ Calvo was, quote, informal, and he did not commit the Port Authority to anything official with the company. It turned out that Respicio's informal talks were anything but that. A series of documents the Guam Daily Post obtained recently showed that, contrary to how Respicio described the situation, he was committing the Port Authority to, among other things, the selection of a specific attorney who would lead the settlement talks, the cost of the agency's share of payment for the mediator in the settlement talks, and start mediation talks 1 day before the Port Authority Board's scheduled meeting on the Guam YTK issue. At the Port Authority Board meeting on February 12, some of the members expressed concern they only found out through news reports that Respicio had begun initial discussions with Guam YTK. On Tuesday, Respicio told the Post he had canceled plans to go into mediation. The issue arose from a lease on Hotel Wharf, which is part of Port Authority property. The agency had terminated the lease on Hotel Wharf for various reasons, including Guam YTK hadn't developed the fishing facilities it was supposed to build as part of the lease agreement. The business hadn't made payments, and the legislature hadn't approved a lease beyond 5 years. A few years ago, Guam YTK convinced an arbitration panel of 3 private attorneys that the business should get paid for the value of what it claims to be a 45-year lease. The arbitration award in favor of Guam YTK was for about $14 million, including legal fees. With interest for late payment, the amount is now $17 million, Respicio has said. Respicio also said he wanted to see if the Port Authority could negotiate a settlement for less. The issue has been argued before the Supreme Court of Guam, and a decision is expected to be issued. This matter is too great for the agency's new general manager to be rushing within just a few weeks of starting his job, not to mention the entire board hadn't given him approval on how to proceed. The Port Authority's financial condition will have an impact on the cost of goods that flow through the seaport. The Leon Guerrero administration promised the public its actions would be transparent. This transparency pledge should include the moves of Governor Leon Guerrero's pick to lead the Port Authority. I am impressed by this editorial's accomplishment to take a serious matter and be so modulated in tone. I just don't understand why anyone should consider transparency and think that it hasn't already been done. I mean, I think Rory Respicio has been totally transparent ever since he was found out. Or at least people around him were, and the transparency is out there for real. If he himself has not been forthcoming with the information to his immediate superiors, the board and the governor, in advance of what he was doing, then he should be out. Or if he was basically doing something that would be covered under confidentiality and not subject to transparency, which is a negotiation of legal matter, then perhaps there really isn't an issue here, because it still was subject, as Rory Respicio has said, it's still up to the board to approve and the legislature to approve anything that he would have agreed to. So he wasn't really negotiating. He was simply trying to find out if there was some settlement that could be made before the court decides one way or the other. This hasn't been sorted out to anyone's satisfaction. There are people who are Mr. Respicio's direct supervisors, the board and the governor. And both of them are responsible for Mr. Respicio's actions. And the board is responsible, but the members of the public are left holding the bag, because we're the ones that have to pay in increased cost of living for whatever the court decides and whatever missteps have been made by the past board action, the past or whatever led up to this YTK thing. As you've heard me say, this zombie contract having a life. Why does it even? Why are we talking about this? This Walking Dead contract. You know, where's the baseball bat? You know, why is it still walking around? Why does it have legs? I don't believe in zombies on TV or, you know, as an agenda item on the Port Authority board meetings. And I don't think the rest of us should either. I don't think zombie contracts have should be taking up any oxygen. But does it contradict a transparency promise? Yeah, but who's going to hold the board or the governor responsible for what Rory's doing? Who's going to hold him responsible? And how many years will it take for the public to hold this administration responsible? So to me, it's like, hey, folks, you know, you're in position, do your job. And maybe that's what Rory was doing. His job as best he saw fit. And but one thing's for sure. You and I in the audience, you and I are going to be the ones paying the freight on this. But this editorial doesn't do a lot of, besides stirring the pot, the same facts around and keeping the issue alive, it's not doing much to really add to our understanding of this issue and what it is, and empowering us to what we can do about the issue. And so I am neutrally impressed. I'm impressed by the neutrality or the milquetoast tone of this editorial. So I am going to where is that pen? My goodness. Okay, here's the pen, and I'm going to give the star today to the Pacific Daily News. Not because it went the whole way, thought it all the way through, but at least it's raising issues, and the public should be participating in the inspections of establishments where you're eating. I know there's one up in Dedido. I saw just driving by from Marine Drive. You can see it. It's an open air food preparation establishment that's sort of tacked on the side of a building, and there are no screens, and there are stray dogs walking in and out, and you kind of walk in between pieces of plywood to just to go in and sit down. And maybe the blow we're going to have this weekend is all it's going to take to sweep it off the side of the building, and they'll have to go back and rebuild it. But it doesn't have screens. It doesn't have a screen door, but it's food establishment, and I would imagine that the inspectors should have been sent over there to examine it. But let's take a break here, and we'll come back with more Tall Tales right after this.
John Gibson, digging up history. The little boat and the loudmouth who made the D-Day landing possible. It's a saga of a bullheaded boat builder who wouldn't take no for an answer. That story right after this. Are you one of the millions who feel trapped by your Obamacare health insurance? If you are, dump it. President Trump has changed Obamacare mandates, and now you can get the health care insurance you need, not the overpriced ripoff Obama forced you into. Call Amy Yarborough, a licensed health insurance broker. She'll save you money and get you the health insurance you need. Call Amy at 817-914-5835. Amy, 817-914-5835. Now back to my story. When 150,000 American soldiers stormed the beaches of Normandy, they came ashore in landing craft built by Andrew Jackson Higgins. But it wasn't because the Navy wanted Higgins' flat-bottom boats. They thought he was just a fishing boat guy from Louisiana, and what did he know? But Higgins fought back. He dressed down the Navy brass, saying, "The Navy doesn't know a darn thing about small boats, but by God, I do." And, oddly enough, he was right. Senator Harry Truman forced a competition, and Higgins' landing craft won. Higgins scaled up his factory from 100 workers to 25,000 and turned out thousands of landing craft. General Dwight Eisenhower said, D-Day wouldn't have been possible without pushy Andrew Higgins and his flat-bottom boats. I'm John Gibson, digging up history.
Are you an optimist or a pessimist? How do you think your coworkers would classify you? How about your boss? I'm Jerry Roberts, and at 7:20 a.m. on The Ray Gibson Show, we'll dig into the positives and the negatives of how we're viewed by those we work with.
You can find daily transcripts of The Extra Point at GuamTraining.com. Tune in every weekday morning at 7:20 for The Extra Point with Jerry Roberts. Brought to you by Guahan Insurance Services and First Hawaiian Bank on 93.3 The Point. Welcome back to Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie, Guam's single voice of reason. Call now, 888-TALK. That's 888-8255. And now, sitting in for the vacationing Bob Klitzkie, here's Daryl Taggarty.
Absolutely. I would have warned you that John Gibson was on his way because he's digging up history, but somehow I didn't get the memo. But that's okay, we got John Gibson back. We'll enjoy him again tomorrow at 4:30. And I was listening to the way he was characterizing that the advertisement that he had for health insurance, because it was my understanding that once Obamacare went into effect, there would be various companies that would be offering policies that you could get in on, and it turned out that in some places they were overpriced, as John Gibson said, and then now there's somebody who's offering an affordable package, and we've had warnings about those too, because those affordable packages sometimes have fine print where the exclusions are they sound good as long as you're healthy, but it doesn't sound so good if you're not healthy. So what the advantage was with the law in place, with the Obamacare law in place, is that there would be health insurance for people who didn't have. And that opening up the market for these products, so you gotta think this stuff through, and you can characterize it one way or the other all you want because of political reasons, but the truth is usually somewhere in the middle. Taking a look at our Facebook folks who are online with us today, Ken Leon Guerrero says, "Go get 'em, Daryl." Yeah, I guess he saw I had my personal protection gear here. The one thing I don't have with my protection gear, I've got my glasses to cover my eyeglasses, the safety glasses, but I don't have the safety earplugs, because if I had the safety earplugs in, I wouldn't be able to hear what I'm doing here. Michael Williams Sr. goes, Hard Hat Thursday. And yeah, it's better than Hard-Headed Thursday, because sometimes we have those around here. Joe Cruz says, I hope this is not your stripper outfit, Daryl. It is Velcro. It is Velcro attached. So, fair warning. But no, I think there's an FCC. No, it's not. It doesn't apply to Facebook Live, does it? Joe Cruz, the old Joe Cruz over here is, I got him chuckling. Ray Gibson's peering in from the corner, and let's see, who else is here? 888-TALK, 888-8255 is our telephone number. Thank you, Michael Williams Sr., for that reminder. I'd love to hear from you. Interrupt me if you wish, because I'd like to know what's on your mind. And our number here, 888-TALK. What did I say? I didn't give up my personal number, did I? Anyway, because that's also 888. Ken Leon Guerrero says, weeds, really? Wasn't more like campaign promises? I wasn't listening too much to the campaign when it was going on. I kind of had I was listening for things that were businesslike, and I wasn't paying attention to the flapping of gums, trying to appeal to these large blocks of voters with the same banal promises and posturing that seems to work so well in a democracy. And so, no, I wasn't looking for that, and so I wasn't really tallying up the campaign promises, and I would like to have gone to more of the rallies so I could hear them actually say the words, but no, and the ads don't really do much, and also neither do the debates. Michael Williams Sr. says, pew pew. Yes, it was not, though, because it was the facility that would handle it, but it's still being completed. I'm going to be working on the instrumentation and telemetry that coordinates all the various instruments and keeps it all flowing, keeps the pumps running, and keeps the tanks from overflowing, and everything working right, no matter what the demand, or what the supply or the demand is for the stuff. Tom Van Engen's got thumbs up. Lee Stolley is clapping. Thank you very much. Tito Guay says, will government of Guam be closed tomorrow for people to prepare for storms? That's a good point. There may be a lot of people going out and buying, doing special, buying of, whatever is needed to get through a weekend, a stormy weekend. I confess I haven't stopped off to see what the latest update might be, but I guess maybe after 5 o'clock I'll go ahead and take a look at the Joint Typhoon Warning Center and see if their 4 o'clock a release has changed the forecast track. That's where I go to find out what's going on with that, and I will for you at 5. Nate Horn. So we need more health inspectors at Public Health and more tax collectors at Rev and Tax. I don't think we can use the H-2B visa excuse here. Absolutely. These people have to be trained, literate, and be conscientious that they're working for the people of Guam and not themselves or for their friends or pulling any punches. So far, these inspectors are very good, and as I said, I was on the receiving end of them, and all I could do was compliment them at their thoroughness and completely agree with them, because they were objectively speaking exactly right. And so, yes, there's no H-2B excuse here. We do bring in H2 workers, H2B workers for professions such as nurses. I had a real nice discussion with one last night, about 2 o'clock in the morning, over at GRMC, who, you know, I came away with a solid appreciation for our ability here on Guam to afford to bring in people to take care of our highly technical needs, such as in healthcare, because we're not cranking out enough of them ourselves. We aren't training our own sons and daughters coming out of our public schools to take these jobs right here on Guam. And then Liz Hudson, what's with the construction hat? Just wondering. Yeah, just, you know, I could come in here in a coat and tie too, you know. I might do that tomorrow. Ishmael Velez says, blasphemy, don't believe in zombies, long live Rick Grimes. Who's Rick Grimes, real Joe?
It's probably from the TV show called The Walking Dead. It's all about zombies.
Yeah, but is he a zombie or is he a killer of zombies?
I think he's a killer of zombies.
Oh, so he's a solution to our YTK problem. You know, we need a Rick Grimes. Who's the Rick Grimes of Guam? Ken. It's Ken Leon Guerrero. He's the Rick Grimes of Guam. We need some zombie killers around here. We need more zombie killers around here. Because these zombies are multi-million-dollar zombies. These are not just, just climbing out of the side of the road and terrorizing the kids at the bus stop. These are, I'm going to make the price of bread go up, zombies. I'm going to make the price of bringing in a car go up, zombies. And there should be 1,000 people going out smashing these zombies, on site. But for some reason these zombies still exist, and there's only a couple of them, but they're multi-million-dollar zombies. The other one is What's that? What's GRRP? The incinerator. That's another zombie. That was the original zombie. Come on, there's enough of that. Gosh, I don't even like this stuff. And Liz Hudson said, "Got the point, Mr. Darrell. I like the way you pave it out. Thank you, Liz. I try. Doing the paving. So you got my hard hat on." And let's see, Liz says, that's dirty way to start your given position, Mr. GM Port. Way to bring it out, Mr. Darrell. You're really on point. Yeah, I've known Rory since I worked with his mom when he was like in junior high school. I just want things to go the right way, not zombified. Let's see, Liz says, now I see why. That's the construction hat. Yes, it's the construction hat. It's an electrician's hat because I work on telemetry, on the electronics and communications between things like pumps and depth sensors and whether the pumps are overheating, sensors and stuff like that. And then the folks back at GWA can just look at a screen. Dispatch can look at a screen and say, we're having a problem over here. Let's send the guys out there. And in the meantime, let's run this alternate pump until that pump number 1 cools down, and then we can put it back in rotation. That kind of thing. It's just another thing I do, for money. I do it for money. Not like my government work. I do for love. Not that kind of love, but, the other kind of love. Love for you. Ken Leon Guerrero says, sending emails to senators helps slay political pork barrel zombies. Political pork barrel zombies. I'm trying to see how that fits into the way that they're portrayed on TV. Political pork barrel zombies. Yeah, I'm kind of getting the idea of these... you've seen that commercial with that guy that rides a motorcycle, and he's like, he's sort of feathered he's tar and feathered with $100 bills or something. Yeah, well, our Guam zombies are tarred and feathered with $1,000 bills, and notices of settlement, or notices of liability, requiring appropriations of millions of dollars. And so those are real zombies. I mean, capital Z. So thank you all for your comments here on Facebook Live. I treasure you as much as I treasure the folks who are listening on radio, and whether it's a digital radio or on a good old fashioned analog. Wow, where'd that come from? Cough. Anyway, I am happy to be here, and let's see, what else do we have here? I saw an interesting letter by Samuel Friedman. He's an oncology specialist, and he's kicking GMH in the shins, but it's kind of hard to read. It's so dense, even for me, to read. Substantial measurable deficits in their knowledge or experience, lack the ability to recognize those deficits, and therefore, despite potentially making repeated errors, I tend to think they are performing competently when they are not. Well, I don't want to dismiss what he's saying, because it's hard to read. It's hard to listen to. It's hard to read out loud. But Dr. Friedman is pointing out that there are people who go around patting themselves on the back, work for the government, and they pat themselves on the back for a job well done, when they have had a hand in the creation of these problems over years. And just because they're sort of climbing back to kind of where we were before it was all found out, that they are making headway, when the core issues haven't even been addressed. Just the ones that were just too much for the Center for Medicaid and Medicare and Medicaid Services. Just a tipping point. They just had it with us, with GMH, and pulled the certification. We don't need to wait until we push someone's buttons to actually go to work to address problems. The problems, the appointees and the top paid people in the organizations, they are paid to take care of the problems that exist as compared to other institutions, similar institutions. And yes, we have our challenges out here, but we also have some advantages over other places. And one of them happens to be scale. These are solvable problems, especially if you're getting paid $100,000 or better a year. You should be able to solve the problems and be able to understand how to apply industry standards in a way that will solve the problems once and for all. But to go around patting yourself on the back because you're able to address the latest round of problems that were the tipping point for CMMS, that really doesn't qualify as virtue. And that's what Dr. Friedman is kind of the point he's making in his article, and I want to commend. It's on page 24 and 25 of today's Guam Daily Post, and he's talking about the Dunning-Kruger effect. States that people of low ability are unable to perceive how much they don't know, and mistake their cognitive ability, the ability to think, as greater than it is. I think I don't really mind that people think they know more than they do, because that describes a great many people. And we depend on those very same people to vote. But I really, really, really resent it when people who are getting paid $70,000, $80,000, $90,000, $120,000 a year act ignorant and think that they're doing right. They're doing all right because there aren't any more problems popping out. And so you're going to hear me talk about this like every day in every way. It's 10 minutes to 5. Let's take a break here, and we'll come back with more Tall Tales.
Make the good things last longer. Get 3 more days for free on our 3-day prepaid rate plan. That's 6 days of unlimited local calls, SMS, and 1 gig of 4G LTE data per day for just $7.95. Text HS3 to 3282 from your Docomo Pacific prepaid phone to sign up today. Docomo Pacific. Better together. Some conditions apply.
It's important to have claims process that works for you. At Guahan Insurance Services, we make things simple and convenient. Same door you walk in to purchase your insurance is the same door you open to file your claim. We can't pretend that the car insurance claims process is fun, but we can promise a hassle-free and speedy recovery without any runarounds. For your home, auto, and business insurance, visit us at the Camacho Landmark Center on Marine Corps Drive in Tamuning. Don't forget to like us on Facebook or give us a call at 475-1162 or text 929-SAVE. That's 929-7283.
We now return to Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie, soaring over the confusion with his superpowers of truth. Call 888-TALK. That's 888-8255. And now, sitting in for the vacationing Bob Klitzkie, here's Daryl Taggarty.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. You know, I appreciate Bob Klitzkie soaring through with his powers of discerning the truth, because that's a high standard to meet, and I'm happy to be here to keep you company, trying to maintain that standard, and happy to join this effort here on The Point. I was just taking a look at the Joint Typhoon Warning Center, but it's still the same 1 o'clock this afternoon update warning number 8, and it has typhoon, now Typhoon Wutip. Now that it's a typhoon, now it's the forecast track as of 1 o'clock is expected to be about 40 miles closer to Guam than it was in previous warnings. So, but the 40 miles closer to Guam means that we're still only going to be within the scope of the 34-knot wind radius and not within the 50-knot wind radius, and that the 34-knot wind radius now extends all the way to the northern part of Guam and not quite to Rota. And so the expected wind speed as it's passing us is still going to be about the same intensity, but that intensity of wind is not going to be reaching Guam. As it is right now, as of 1 o'clock. So here it is, almost 5 o'clock. Maybe there's going to be another update before we get off the air this afternoon here on Tall Tales. But I'll see about bringing you more information as it comes out on Typhoon Wutip. Until then, just take it easy, and we'll talk about some other things. If there's something that's on your mind, I'd like to hear about it. 888-8255. And I'd love to hear from you. Have any of you noticed the article that Ken Leon Guerrero wrote? It was posted in the Post today. It was printed on page 24, an out-of-touch judicial system. And he fired this off concerning, this was one that I actually had an advance version of before, when a couple days ago when this first came out, and that has to do with the decision in the Superior Court of Guam to dismiss the felony charge against Gerald Cruz II in the Jigo pet killing case. He says it points out how disconnected the judicial system of Guam is from the people of Guam, and He talks about the judicial system overlooking the fact that a person is discharging firearms around homes with people in them as a serious crime. And he's asking whether what would happen if a bullet meant for a pet goes astray and goes through the door of a house, killing a child. And certainly, this should have been pointed out by the Attorney General. I mean, how many charges were leveled against this man, and why was it only the cruelty charge that was used against him that led to the dismissal of charges on a technicality? And Ken Leonguero maintains not punishing the person who discharged the firearm at a pet or in the direction of a residence is a crime in and of itself. Yeah, we all know that. You can't do that. You can't shoot a stuffed animal in the way that Mr. Cruz shot the dog. If you walked up to somebody's house and shot a stuffed animal, it would be more of a crime than he was charged with. You can't do that. Even if you're not aiming at anybody in particular. You can't just walk into somebody's yard and shoot a gun in the direction of the house, for your own reasons and have nothing to do with the people on the property who own or occupy the property. And so Ken says, I wish we had the ability to file charges against Judge Michael Bordallo for gross negligence or reckless endangerment, because his ruling establishes a precedent that it's okay to shoot people's pets as long as you kill them on the first shot, and that it's okay to shoot a gun in the direction of someone's house as long as you only kill their pet and kill it with the first shot. That was the ruling. For years now, there has been a growing disconnect between judges and those of us who live in the real world that has been magnified by Judge Bordallo's pet-killing decision. Acknowledging that disconnects exist between the real world people live in and the legal world judges live in is the only way I can even begin to wrap my head around what has happened in the Guam YTK decision. Think about it. In that case, where several Guam judges decided that even though Guam YTK did not build the fisheries plant it was obligated contractually to build, or pay rent, or pay GRT or income taxes, and did not get an extension to the lease beyond the 5-year legal term, the taxpayers of Guam owe the owners of the company, YTK, 45 years of profits on a plant that never processed a single fish. Do I need to read that again? You heard it right the first time. It was not a long stretch for me, Ken Leonguero, to get from the decision to dismiss the charges on the pet killings to the absurdity of the decisions leading to awarding nearly $17 million to Guam YTK. I just can't wait to see the judicial reasoning behind the pending decision on the $20 million money-for-nothing lawsuit against the government of Guam for not issuing the company a new contract to replace the original contract voided by the Supreme Court of Guam that is still pending in the Superior, Court of Guam. You know, I think he just jumped over to the GRRP, because that's the $20 million money-for-nothing lawsuit. Can you tell my blood is beginning to come up? The problem is that the public has almost no say in the selection of judges. And on that note, we're going to take a break here for the 5 o'clock Fox News and the greatly anticipated halftime show here on Tall Tales. And we'll be back in just a few minutes, and we'll have the second half of today's show. Be thinking about what you want to call about. 888-8255 is the telephone number here at the station. I'd love to hear from you.
The Point is KUSG, Hagåtña, Guam, 93.3 FM and 104.3 HD3.
From suspect to victim. Rather, the other way around. I'm Carmen Roberts, Fox News. Empire actor Jussie Smollett faces an even bigger drama. Prosecutors charging him with a felony for allegedly making up a report of being attacked.
Chicago Police Chief Communications Officer Anthony Guglielmi tweeting late Wednesday that they named Smollett a suspect, which is a Class 4 felony. Detectives moved quickly on the case once Smollett's lawyers contacted police, presenting evidence before a Cook County grand jury. Smollett filed a police report January 29th, claiming two men jumped him, yelled racial and homophobic slurs, as well as "This is MAGA country," while slipping a noose around his neck and pouring an unknown chemical onto him.
Fox's Michelle Polino. The actor's attorneys issued a statement saying, like any other citizen, Mr. Smollett enjoys the presumption of innocence, particularly when there's been an investigation like this one, where information both true and false has been repeatedly leaked. Several media reports say Special Counsel Robert Mueller may wrap up his Russia investigation as early as next week. However, the report may never fully be revealed because the Attorney General is not required to furnish it to Congress or the American people.
William Barr testified that he would try and make as much of the report public as possible and provide as much as possible to Congress. My hearing of his testimony is that whatever goes public or goes to Capitol Hill will be William Barr's draft or summary of the Mueller report, not the raw material, if you will, from the special counsel findings.
Fox's Catherine Herridge. Japan says as Hayabusa 2 spacecraft is approaching the surface of an asteroid about 170 million miles from Earth and is due to touch down Friday morning. After landing, it will attempt to collect asteroid material that could provide clues about the origin of the solar system and life on Earth. This is Fox News.
Great news from Exchange, Guam's #1 online and mobile remittance service to the Philippines. Get a chance to win a trip for 2 to Manila with 3 days and 2 nights accommodations at the Belmont Hotel at Resorts World Manila. Here's how to join. Download the Exchange app or visit exchange.me. Sign up and send money to the Philippines. You can also visit the Exchange office inside the iConnect building in Upper Tumon. Promo ends May 2nd, 2019. Call 888-736-3 for more information. Conditions apply. Take advantage of Exchange Dollar to Remit promo. Visit exchange.me for details.
When your family needs medical care, how often do you find the need to visit multiple clinics? When a child has a serious ailment, do you find yourself meeting a medical provider only to learn you must go somewhere else for testing? At the FHP Health Center, you can find multiple specialties and testing services under one roof. And if your family needs urgent care, FHP is there for you with convenient weekday, evening, and weekend hours. Voted the island's best clinic and Pika's best 2 years in a row. FHP, our island, your clinic. Learn more at fhpguam.com.
The Lady Liberty climber strikes again, this time scaling the roof of the Southwest Key building in Austin, Texas.
This woman walked up to the 3rd floor staircase and then scaled a fence to the roof of the building. Police have been up here in this fire department ladder trying to negotiate with her. We're told by a friend of hers that her name is Patricia Akuma, and she's a naturalized citizen from Staten Island, New York.
Jennifer Kendall with Fox 7 in Austin. Last Independence Day, Teresa Okumo climbed the Statue of Liberty to protest the separation of migrant children from their parents at the border. An avalanche in the Himalayas leaves at least 1 Indian soldier dead and 5 missing. Crews rescued another 5 paramilitary soldiers from an area bordering China. Actress Gwyneth Paltrow files a countersuit in a ski accident case.
Gwyneth Paltrow is fighting back against a lawsuit from a man who claims he was permanently injured in a ski accident she caused. Paltrow's countersuit states that it was the man who plowed into her at a Utah ski resort in 2016. It claims Paltrow was skiing during a family vacation on a beginner run at Deer Valley Resort in Park City when Terry Sanderson smashed into her. Paltrow was shaken and quit skiing with her family for the day, stating he knocked her down and he was not knocked out. Sanderson claims the opposite, that Paltrow was skiing out of control, knocked him out, leaving him with a concussion and 4 broken ribs. Sanderson is seeking $3.1 million. Michelle Polino, Fox News.
Prosecutors say that a California college student created a banana plug app to sell drugs. They filed federal drug charges against 18-year-old Colin Howard. The freshman at the University of California, Santa Cruz, allegedly created the app with a motto, "We have what you want." And in many cases, prosecutors say that included cocaine, Molly, and shrooms. I'm Carmen Roberts, and this is Fox News.
Hi this is Ray Gibson from The Morning Show on 93.3 The Point. And we're celebrating our one-year anniversary this February. The Point is your news talk headquarters with top news, sports, weather, and traffic, and of course, always a little extra. We want to thank our listeners, fans, and followers for keeping us on our toes and joining us on this journey. The Ray Gibson Show Anniversary Celebration is brought to you by Take Care, Our Island, Your Health Plan.
Make the good things last longer. Get 3 more days for free on our 3-day prepaid rate plan. That's 6 days of unlimited local calls, SMS, and 1 gig of 4G LTE data per day for just $7.95. Text HS3 to 3282 from your Docomo Pacific prepaid phone to sign up today. Docomo Pacific, better together. Some conditions apply.
And welcome back to Tall Tales for a Thursday afternoon. Bob Klitzkie will be back here in this chair in 2 weeks, 14 days. I'm Darrell Taggarty, sitting in for the vacationing Bob Klitzkie. Thank you very much for joining me this afternoon on Tall Tales on the Point. And a hard hat Thursday. The dignity of work. Real Joe, what happened? I thought we had a call.
No, he didn't want to talk to you, sir. He wanted to talk to me.
Oh, well, okay. So
no, actually, I've been getting calls regarding whether school's going to be closed tomorrow, and some other things regarding the storm. But as far as we know, basically what you said on the air was it's been upgraded to a typhoon, and I haven't gotten any official word regarding schools or government shutdowns or whatnot. So I believe as soon as we do, we'll definitely put it out on the air.
Absolutely. That's why you sit on the other side of the glass, because you could be picking up some of this information.
Yeah, I've been checking.
If it's coming in, you're going to know about it before I will.
Yeah, and then I'll let you know about it for sure.
Yeah, you got 4 screens. I've got 1.
We'll keep an eye on it, though.
Yeah, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Real Joe. And so, yeah, absolutely. I was just checking on the weather over the break, and no, it's pretty much the same. Warning number 8 is still posted. I guess the next update would be at 7 or 8 o'clock tonight. And yes, we have to keep an eye on these things, but we're pretty well prepared, and nobody should be panicking. If you're new to the island, well, just take a look at the other folks around you and see how concerned they are, and leave it at that. Because certainly, that we don't have as many coconut trees as we used to. It used to be that you didn't want to stick your head out when there was a lot of wind, because a coconut might come flying out of the dark at you. But we don't have to worry about that anymore. You might get hit by a rhino beetle, but it's not the same as a coconut. And I've got some trees that are probably going to come down in the next storm, because there's no more coconut fronds on the top. It's just a headless tree. So maybe I'll get hit by one of those trees, or I won't get hit by it. I've got my hard hat on, but maybe my house will get knocked down, or my mango tree will have some leaves knocked off it. But we're pretty well prepared. And if you are not yet prepared, then just make preparations to party, because that's what we do. We say, okay, we're just going to go party somewhere where it's safe, not have to go outside, and that covers it. It just covers it, and don't have to worry about it. Just don't plan on standing next to any, thin glass windows. That's all. And we're good. We're good. And we're used to this stuff. It's been happening for years around here. And so, and the island shows it. You know, it's not a lot of substandard structures, and people who live in those substandard structures are aware of that. So, before the break, we were taking a look at Ken Leon Guerrero's letter to the editor entitled "An Out-of-Touch Judicial System." And let's continue this, because this is he's making a point here that we may want to pay attention to, you know, quality of judicial decisions. And Ken says the problem is that the public has almost no say in the selection of judges. Let's see, I'll go back to the Facebook page here and see what's... Oh. What's this? Ishmael Velez says, hard hats are an illusion. They're just made so the family has a head to identify when it comes off. You know, Ishmael, you know what I was thinking of during the break? You know, you've seen the movie, right? And it's like, you know, the song, the theme song, you can leave your hat on, you know. So I could just have my headphones and my hat on, and the rest of you would be none the wiser. You know, nobody would know what else I had on, you know, because I just aim the camera up a little bit, and then you wouldn't know. You could use your imagination. Anyway, Ken says, judges are appointed in deals made behind closed doors. Appointees then have a public hearing with little or no publicity beyond the legal minimum. The confirmation hearings for judges are often scheduled during the day when most people have to be at work. After judges are confirmed to the bench, there are no central records where citizens can easily go to look at judicial decisions the way we can look at how senators vote on different bills before the legislature. The pet killing decision should serve as a wake-up call for citizens that we need to spend more time looking at the decisions the judges make on our behalf. If the gap between the real world we live in and the fictional legal world judges live in gets wider, it won't be long before criminals will have all the rights and law-abiding citizens will have none. Every election, voters are given an opportunity to retain, judges or not. Maybe the time has come for us to begin exercising our right not to retain judges who are so out of touch with the real world that they become a danger to our lives, our liberties, and our ability to pursue happiness. That's a letter to the editor by Ken Leon Guerrero that appears on today's Guam Daily Post on page 24. The interesting point, you know, in some places in the states, there are non-profit organizations that keep an eye on the performance of judges, especially in those jurisdictions where the judges who are appointed are really not very, they don't come from a judicial background, they come from a political background. And so they are judges like appointees to, like we have appointees to our government agencies. And so the people, in order to protect themselves from capricious decisions, keep track of the decisions of the judges so that the next time they're up for election or reappointment, they can come out with the track record of the judge. Now, we don't have that here. The district court judge is appointed for 10 years only and not for life. And that's the federal judge. And that judge has to always look over her shoulder to what kind of a decision or rationale is going to be in line with the rationale of the appointing authority, which is the president. And she's a political appointee too, but retained by a successive president only because she toes the line, or he toes the line. And so that's an oddity. It only happens in the unincorporated territories, not in incorporated territories or in in the states. Federal judges are appointed for life, and they can be elevated. They can be nominated to higher judgeships from where they are on the bench already. But our local judges, they are every so many years, they are on the ballot for whether we should retain them or not. And there's nobody really keeping track of the quality of their decisions. And so, maybe someday we'll have something like that. But Ken raises that question today in the paper. Why don't we hold judges accountable for the quality of their decisions? It might have been just as easily, Judge Bordallo could have said, why are you bringing this case into my court on an animal cruelty charge when there are more serious and proximate and relevant charges to be proven? Why is it that you are preferring charges on cruelty and not on reckless endangerment for discharging a weapon in close proximity of an occupied dwelling? And he could have admonished the Attorney General for that, but he did not. He just ruled on what was in front of him and called it a day. And so thank you, Ken, for pointing this out and not holding back on what you think needs to be done in this to perfect our American government. This government is ours to improve. Did anybody bother taking notice of the way that that it was portrayed? Let's see, where was it? On that the funds may, where was it? Was a headline that said that the build-up money may be lost. Why would anyone think the build-up money may be lost and not is lost, or is by all intents and purposes lost? Just don't understand why people would be so imprecise. But such is life. 888-8255. Love to hear from you. What's on your mind today? We've got. I'm prepared for what it is that you might want to bring up. I got my hat on and I got my safety vest, so I'm not going to be run over, and I'm not going to get mud in my eye falling out of the air or a flying wrench. And maybe I've got a call here. Let's see what's going on. Real Joe, is there? Yes, indeed. Thank you very much for calling. You're on Tall Tales.
How you doing, Daryl? This is Tom.
Hello, Tom. What's on your mind today? Thank you for calling.
Well, you instigated me to call when you mentioned something about the build-up. I'm not the one to say that it is lost, but I am also convinced that it might not be entirely lost as of now, because the reason why I say that is because Japan has already committed $10 billion on their own for the transfer of Marines from Okinawa to Guam. And the U.S. already have that in their account, okay? And the U.S. only committed $6 billion. So the Japanese government committed more than the U.S. So, and not only that, the reason why I'm saying that it's not entirely lost right now is because Trump might be dipping into the $6 billion that they committed for the Guam buildup, right? Mm-hmm. But Guam is not the only military construction that's going on in the country right now. There's a Marine base that they're building in the East Coast that is also under threat because of the Trump emergency declaration, not just the buildup in Guam. So it's true that Trump might dip maybe $1 billion from the dedicated fund to the Guam buildup, but it's not entirely lost. And even if Trump really pulls out almost all of or over half of what's committed to the Guam buildup, later on, once they get this emergency declaration resolved, and then that Trump hopefully succeeds in getting Mexico to eventually pay for that wall by tariffs and other commerce kind of deal that to get the money back from Mexico. Hopefully they can make it up, but return it to the Guam Build-Up Fund. I'm being optimistic about this.
Yes, yes, you are.
I'm not. I'm saying, I'm hoping for the best. In other words, for Guam, but I feel that Japan has already committed $10 billion already.
Well, that's more than a feeling. That is a commitment that they have made because it's a commitment to their own citizens, the citizens of Japan residing in Okinawa, that they will move the United States Marines out of downtown Naha. That they can move those bases out so that those bases can be used for civilian purposes, and the population pressures are relieved by this addition of so much more land that can be used without. It's not a BRAC closing. It's going to be the way that the Japanese government returns land to civilian uses through development, through original owners, through planned development, whatever they're going to do. Maybe this is a kind of a wrinkle in like what our president has been saying about our allies have to pay their own way. More of their own way, so maybe we don't have to spend U.S. dollars. We can just use U.S. dollars on deposit in Japan that the Japanese government's putting up. If they want us out so bad, they can pay a higher percentage of the to keep the Guam buildup on track, so they can get their land back and use it for non-military purposes and have a bigger economy in Okinawa. That's another optimistic view.
Yeah, and also, unless I'm mistaken, the way I understood it is that the $10 billion that Japan already committed to the build-up in Guam, they only used so far about 1.8 or maybe 2 billion out of the 10. So there's still a lot of Japanese money in the U.S. Treasury right now that they are reserving for the build-up. So if the Defense Department, the U.S. Defense Department, does this thing right, they could be using the Japanese commitment entirely until Trump decides what to do with making up for what he's going to dip out of the U.S. fund part, the U.S. part of it.
Well,
you know what I mean?
Yes, I do. It just came to mind. Maybe the sleight of hand that's practiced down at the Guam legislature for dipping into certain embargoed funds is actually a practice that is from Congress, where the money is deposited into a fund for a certain purpose, but then when it goes to Congress, it appropriates money for a purpose, and back in the digest, it identifies the source of the funds to be from a fund that's been set up for that use.
So our delegate, Sir Nicholas, should not be entirely saying that it is lost. He should be working with the U.S. Department of Defense, and then even if he has to go directly to the president and say, don't stop any construction in Guam. Let's start using the Japanese money now, and then later on you can make up what you dip out of our share of it. Our delegates should be working with the administration in Washington about this. They can't just say, Sir Nicholas cannot just say it's entirely already gone, the $749 million. They can't just say that. They're going to work it out.
Well, he can say it. He can say it. And I think he also said that that's an executive problem, not a legislative problem. The legislative side, he's ready to do what he can to pass a resolution, to pass a bill that would appropriate money, and not allow the governor, the president, to divert it for other purposes. But you're right. He could appeal to the president to use the Japanese source funds to build up Guam for U.S. forces, and also to hurry up the movement, keep the movement on schedule. And that isn't money from the U.S. Treasury; it's money from the Japanese Treasury. Just like the money from the Mexican Treasury would go to build the wall. But he has money that he can tap that's not even U.S. source funds to keep the construction of military facilities on Guam on track.
And also the Japanese government probably will have something to say about this later on, because the Japanese government in Tokyo has already committed to the Okinawans that they will move the Marines out on this date, no later than that date. So the delay here in Guam is the Japanese government will probably have to say something about it to Washington.
I think that's Mike Pompeo, the current Secretary of State, is really the one that is supposed to be saying something to the president and the Japanese government about that. That our foreign commitments, the commitments to foreign allies, are actually still solid. That we're not breaking our commitments. We are simply it's a domestic matter to move the money around, and it's also a domestic matter to move Japanese money to be spent first, and keep these projects on track. But he could the president can remove the U.S. source funds to go to the border wall, because that's protecting citizens in the lower 48 states, and that's a higher priority than defending the whole of the nation by building up a military outpost.
All right, buddy, I'll let other people chime in, okay? Nice talking to you again, buddy.
Thank you very much for the call, Tom. I appreciate it.
Bye.
Okay, bye. That was Tom. Oh boy, that's an interesting sound. Tom brings up this concern we have. It makes me kind of chuckle sometimes to think that there are people who are just unreserved fans of the current president, and he can do no wrong, or at least all of the dots connect, all of the lines are square, and it's up to us to see the logic behind his moves. But I'm not quite as much an optimist about it as Tom is, because I don't think that funding for a Marine base, replacement base on the East Coast, is going to be an even or lower priority than the buildup out here on Guam, simply because the base construction on the East Coast is in a district that actually votes for a member of Congress and a U.S. senator and also for president in the upcoming elections. And so if he has to cause pain in any American community, it'll be in one that does not have voting rights that would be important in the next national election. And so that's why I don't think that that's so much of a I don't think that Guam is a priority when it comes to making decisions of a domestic nature. We just simply don't have to rate, because there is no compelling reason for us to rate highly in comparison with state residents. And so it's about 5:29, and it's about time to take our 7th inning stretch. And so, Real Joe, we've got something to go to here, and then on the other side, we'll come back with more Tall Tales.
On March 9th, join Bank of Guam for the EFIT Run and Block Party to benefit Guam Cancer Care and American Cancer Society. Our Sunset 2K and 5K run will start at Chamorro Village with showtime at 4 and go time at 5. And don't forget about our block party starting at 4 o'clock, complete with food trucks, a kids zone, live entertainment, and a beer garden, so don't forget your ID. This is a bring your own water bottle event. The EFIT Run and Block Party, Saturday, March 9th. Bank of Guam, member FDIC.
Are you an optimist or a pessimist? How do you think your coworkers would classify you? How about your boss? I'm Jerry Roberts, and at 7:20 a.m. on The Ray Gibson Show, we'll dig into the positives and the negatives of how we're viewed by those we work with.
You can find daily transcripts of The Extra Point at guamtraining.com. Tune in every weekday morning at 7:20 for The Extra Point with Jerry Roberts. Brought to you by Guahan Insurance Services and First Hawaiian Bank on 93.3 The Point.
And we're back to the game. The game of talking about what it is that's going on in our world that's of interest to you and to me. Got a couple of comments here. Ishmael Velez loves my. He's laughing about my response to his comment about hard hats being an illusion, and so it can identify the head of the, but he's laughing about that. And then we've got Richard Leon is here with a number of comments. The judge is a prestigious title with names that are familia-based. They don't have any lawyer endowments. I think Michael Bordaglia was a lawyer for quite a while, but he was a lawyer sort of, not one that was very flashy or in headlines. He didn't take high-profile cases. He was a lawyer that did his work and kept his head low for years and years and years, because I've known him. So he has the chops, but in this case he could have been more assertive from the bench in the interest of justice. And that's what I think Ken Leon Guerrero was saying, is that he should have been more of an activist in the performance of his duty as a judge than to be to act as if he's sort of above it all, or it doesn't concern him whether the question that was brought to the court by the Attorney General was good enough. And then Richard continues, this small island has many political appointees, and they are related. It's pathetic. There's lots of relations, close relations on Guam, and it's part of our charm. There's some people who are completely removed from the political sphere on this island, and they see the relationships between close relatives and friends and paris and all this within the government of Guam as a form of corruption. They don't think that the island should be run by people who are so closely related to each other, that it really should be opened up to people who are not related to each other, and primarily that's done by having people come from other places run the island. And so it's a, pick your poison. Which one do you want? Do you think that people who live here know how to run a government, or it takes people from outside of an area to know how to run a government? And I think we've been around long enough to know how to run a government, at least as well as people in the States who have had an extra 50 or 100 years of practice within their own jurisdictions to craft governments, state-level governments. And then Richard Leon continues, caller is dreaming. I think he's talking about caller Tom. The wall is a President Trump obsession, and little Lou Leon Guerrero has paper slippers to make Trump see the light. And then Ireneo Siniclas says, a stand your ground law could have helped prevent the shooting of the dogs. Actually, that's exactly the thing that crossed my mind. You know, it's a good thing this guy didn't get popped by, because the community was already sensitized to a man walking around shooting pets. So why wasn't he shot on the street? You know, it should have been a killing. But then we would have been prosecuting a father of young children or a husband for shooting out of his front door at a guy that was aiming a gun at his house. And that, I'm glad the tragedy was averted. It was less of a tragedy than that. But anyway, let's go to the phones and see who's there. Line 1, you're on the air. Welcome to Tall Tales.
Is that me?
That is you.
Oh, yeah. There's a third option as to the people who should run the government.
Who's that?
Someone who is honest and decent and good-willed and competent. Okay, they could.
Well, they all say they are. That's every one of these leaders that we just elected.
I could say I'm Superman, but it wouldn't be true.
No, but every single one of those candidates said, I am competent, I look and smell good, and I pledge to do for you.
Decent and honest?
Well, I guess they weren't obviously dishonest as they were declaring their candidacy, or they would not have been voted into office.
Okay, if you want to believe that, okay.
Well, no, but see, whether I believe it or not, I was listening for it. I know a lot of these jokers, but it's the people who are voting who make the decision. I'm sorry?
And the jokers were voted into office?
Yeah, we voted. We've all voted. And then when the dust settled, the jokers were in office.
Well, we voted out some jokers, and hopefully we didn't vote in some more different jokers.
Yeah, this is a problem because if it's just you and I voting, we're going to get the leaders that we want, but we have to open it up to about 50,000 others.
Okay, just you and I voting.
If it's just you and I voting, we know we're going to get the representatives that we want in there. But if you're going to open it up to 50,000 others,
your uncle.
I'm sorry?
My cousin and your uncle. That's the ones we want.
Well, that may be, and so there's going to be a discontent on the others. Well,
they call it nepotism, and most people think nepotism is a bad thing. It's not desirable.
That's right. But I'm saying is that you and I know who we wanted in there. But when the voting rolls were opened and people went to register, and then we ended up with 46,000 or something eligible voters, and then most of them showed up to the polls, then it was no longer your decision and my decision alone. It was up to those people who went and voted. And that's how we got these jokers in. You know, however they presented themselves as honest, competent, good-looking, good-smelling, everything, experienced. We've got them in now, and now we're asking, so where's your, when are you going to start displaying your competence and your experience?
Yeah, they're non-jokerhood.
Yes, they're non-jokerhood. Exactly. If I was to go through, I've been a bit distracted the last couple of days. I was meaning to go through the bills that have been filed in the legislature so far to find the ones that I think really are the ones that you and I were looking for to be filed to improve, to set in motion improvements to our government and to cut costs and to get going what we thought needs to get going with this new legislature, new administration. And I'm sure there's only a couple. And there are some senators who haven't introduced any ideas at all. They're not co-sponsoring anything. If they're in the majority and in charge of a committee, they haven't come up with anything in particular that they can point to say, here I am doing my job. And it's already 2 months, almost 2 months gone, and that's 2 out of the 48 of their term. So it's disappointing. I think we lost that call, Real Joe.
Yeah, I think he hung up on you.
He hung up on me?
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, Jimmy doesn't like to waste his minutes.
Oh, that's okay. I don't mind. I don't mind that he hung up. But maybe I shouldn't have interrupted him. Just let him talk.
I don't think he hung up on you to hang up on you. I think he just hung up because he was done.
He was done talking.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I hope I'm looking forward to him calling again because I think we had something going there.
Yeah, Jimmy's got a lot to say.
Well, that's
but
all right.
He may not have a lot of minutes on his phone because I think he buys by the minute.
No, man, I should donate to his fund. If I knew where to find him, I'd drop off a card with some minutes on it, and he can call all he wants. That's how it is here on Tall Tales. That's not a tall tale. That's a heartfelt sentiment. Let's see. Dave Duenas says, rumor has it, which is not something that I was cautioned about not spinning rumors on the show by Bob Klitzkie. But Dave says, rumor has it that Daryl is being considered as the chairman of all boards and commissions. Ha ha ha! Who you calling jokers, Daryl? I'd like to see the people who are in office, Dave, doing what the mission of the agency calls for, and what's called for, not for the agency to fulfill its mission in the year 2000, but in the year 2020. And that's what I'm looking for. Not someone who has the position, has the directorship as a reward for political patronage, or just has to be there to sign the papers and make sure people get paid, but actually move the agency forward. And that I would like to see. And the jokers are the ones who are in, whether elected or appointed, who don't seem to have any sense of urgency to get things done. You take the new executive director of GURA. Now, yeah, he got out in front of the governor and said some things that maybe weren't cleared in advance with the governor, and got some folks down at Guma Tranquilidad and Mo Cotton kind of excited about the prospects of developing that land in the near term. And while internally he spoke out of turn, he did display a sense of initiative. And so I give him credit for that. I'd like to see a display of initiative on the part of the agency directors. Lascia Casil and her interview about the Hagatna Restoration Redevelopment Agency, came out and described the vision of investing in Agana as the center once again for the government of Guam. Let's bring back those horrible traffic jams, or build an overpass or whatever we have to do to make sure traffic can flow past Agana when the Gov Guam workers are converging or getting out from work. But let's by all means bring the government of Guam workers out of the villages and back into Agana, and let's develop a river walk, and let's be able to stroll up and down the streets of Agana all hours of the day and night, and have ourselves a nice time with a downtown worth calling a downtown. At least she's coming out and saying, this is our vision, and this is what I'm going to do with my pay week in, week out. You'll see me out there working this vision up. And yeah, I need some staff, but until then, I'm still going to be out here letting you know what it is that we'd like to see as the development of Agana. Now that's initiative. I don't mind paying people like that. I don't mind them drawing a paycheck. I think they're useful, whether they are getting something done or they are at least helping to lead. And that's the leadership that we elected. And it's not necessarily what is happening uniformly across the agencies. And that's what I'm pointing out. And so, yeah, this, let's see, I keep grabbing the wrong mouse. But I thank you for your comment on Facebook Live, Dave. David Duenas on Facebook Live this afternoon here on Tall Tales. And I'm taking a look here at this, at the bottom of our Facebook page. It's there's some information coming across about the progress of Typhoon Yutip, and Guam is in Core 3 at 7 a.m. this morning. Is that how I got it? Am I reading this right, Real Joe? The crawl text on the bottom of the screen.
Oh, yeah, that's probably old information. Because we are now in condition, we are in typhoon. It's typhoon now, so we're waiting for more word on the, I guess, from the civil defense.
Oh, well, maybe that crawl should come off. Oh, who put it on?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't take care of that.
Oh, well, whoever it is better come back around and do the updates. But imagine this. California has already received 18 trillion gallons soaking this month, enough to fill 27 million Olympic-sized pools. Wow. Are there 27 million Olympic-sized pools in California? They have enough rain to fill them, if they are. I have a sister who's living in an area that was under a drought. It was so dry, and it's an agricultural area. It's known for growing almonds and cherries and whatnot. And the ground was so dry it was cracked. It looked like something from, you see the skull of the cow that died there, with the horns sticking out. Cracked ground, no water for the plants that are there. They're just drying up. They're ready to just be bulldozed over. And now, then we had the rain, the fires, and now we've got the rains. And they've probably got so much water. I know that they had some flood warnings over the past couple of weeks. And so Los Angeles has received more than 4 inches in the last 3 weeks. And San Diego has had more than 10 inches of rain in the month of February, passing its average for the entire winter season, according to the National Weather Service. And the totals are likely to increase this week as another storm rolls into the region on Wednesday night, their time. To bring less than a quarter of an inch of rain, it's a drier system, but it's still going to keep raining in Southern California. And so, I'm happy for them. They can fill their Olympic-sized swimming pools and millions of those pools if need be, with the water that's falling on the ground there. And so we like that. We like that very much for them. So is it time to take another break here? Oh, line 1. Okay, but let's take the break first. Okay, gotcha. Okay, let's take a break here, and we'll come back with a caller on line 1 right after this.
Hi, welcome to this Subway ad for our all-new Ultimate Cheesy Garlic Bread. How would you like it?
I'll take a skeptical grandma.
Set in her ways?
A smidge.
Grandma, try this Ultimate Meatball Marinara made with Ultimate Cheesy Garlic Bread. Melted mozzarella, Parmesan, garlic butter spread. It's just like yours.
Like mine? My grandmother's recipe?
Try it.
My grandmother's cheesy garlic bread was never all that.
Subway, make it what you want. Limited time only at participating restaurants.
As we enter the last go-round on today's program here on Tall Tales, let's go to line 1 and see who's there. Welcome to Tall Tales, line 1.
Yeah, that must be me.
Hello, Mo. How are you today?
This is Mo.
Yes.
Yeah, I thought I I listen to your program and I want to chime in, but I'm waiting for something real estate to talk about. So I won't go to real estate this time. I'll just ask the political question. What does a deputy director do?
Oh, I can tell you. I can tell you exactly what a deputy director does.
What do they do?
The deputy director in a large agency is an additional set of eyes and ears to oversee the direction that the director is given to the different divisions. So he can be an additional staffer that's helping out a division to get some work done where they need sort of a surge. So let's send this highly skilled person that has some stature in the organization into an area to make sure people stay focused on what needs to be done. He is also the one who makes sure, because he's authorized under the law to be acting, so he can be sure that people get paid when the director goes off island. So he can sign for the timesheets and do the administrative work, the ministerial duties of the director to make sure that the agency continues to run smoothly in the absence of the appointed and confirmed by the legislature director.
Okay, but there was a period of time when we didn't have deputy directors. If I recall, I think the legislature got rid of them, and then they've been brought back for this administration. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's well. Basically, the legislature has said we don't want to fund deputy directors, and the governor didn't appoint deputy directors except a few.
Right.
Except a few.
Yeah.
And so. Even when I was in the administration, in the last administration, one of the first things I did was to stop the recruitment of a deputy director. Basically, the appointment of a deputy director, the funding was moved to another position that I needed. And then I was rubbing people's fur the wrong way, and it was kind of a strike against me. One of the first couple.
You got in trouble because they like that. It's a political vote, maybe. But to me, it looks like someone who would do the work so that the director doesn't have to do the work. And she can go out to the funerals and, kissing babies and things like that.
That actually does happen too. I think there was one agency in the last administration where the deputy director was much more articulate than the director, and so appeared in public hearings representing the position of the agency on various matters in order to put their best foot forward, because the director, although he was knowledgeable and had been with the agency for a long time, had come up through the ranks, didn't come off as well publicly as knowing what needed to be done in the initiatives that the governor had started in that agency. And so the deputy director was more of a spokesperson. But it is a position that works very closely with the director. To make sure that things get done.
Do we know how many there are?
Has
anybody counted them up?
Yeah, the Office of Finance and Budget has counted them up, because those
are there?
Oh, I don't know, but there are in the agency the enabling legislation for the agency. It states whether there will be a deputy or not as an appointed position. If it's not mentioned, then the top classified employee isn't the deputy director, but the top classified employee automatically becomes the head of the agency as in an acting capacity when the director is off island for a conference or so. But
it just seems to me that while our island is always saying we're short of money, we can't cover this, we can't do that, and then we have deputy directors, and then we have staff for these directors who the staff is supposed to be doing the work, not the deputy director. The deputy director probably answers the phone while the director's out. I'm just appalled at the fact that we now have deputy directors when we got rid of them at one time.
You know, you're right, and everything I've said since you raised this has been completely sugar-coated, because in my experience, deputy directors are simply positions that are in the spoils system where the governor is allowed to employ people without having any specific duties for them to perform, because there is no description of the duties of a deputy director in almost every agency. There's a couple agencies where the deputy has enumerated and articulated duties, similar to the lieutenant governor being the keeper of the seal of Guam, and is the acting governor when the governor goes off island. But it's really not any more than complicated or articulated than the lieutenant governor's role, and we can easily go without the deputy director, easily, absolutely.
Yeah, well,
there's no.
Somebody would do some research and come up and tell me how many deputy directors we have. If there's only 3 of them, that's fine. If there's 100 of them, because there's lots of directors, lots of directors out there. There's a director for just about everything you can think of. If we have, it's a duplication of effort as far as I'm concerned. And just another way where we can put people who were promised a position, if you vote for me or you put me in, I'll give you a job. And, here's a job for you.
Can I impart a really optimistic spin on this concept of deputy director? Do you want to hear it? Hello? I don't know. Are you there? Are you there, Mo?
Yes. Have I
okay.
Cut off?
I couldn't hear you, so I was just wondering whether you wanted to hear my really
your
fervent hope.
Spin.
Yes,
absolutely. I want to hear it.
It is that the people who are appointed to deputy director are the people who are the most highly motivated to prove themselves that they are worthy of becoming directors someday, and will really push very, very hard to implement the programs and policies coming out of the governor's office to bring the agencies that they're employed with into the 21st century once and for all, to drive the reorganization and to be no nonsense, get the work done, do the work that no classified employee wants to do, which is to re-specify jobs within the system, to recommend that certain positions be eliminated or upgraded or downgraded or transferred to another agency, and assist the governor to do the reorganization that will bring the entire government of Guam into the 2020 budget in a way that will fit the revenues that the government of Guam expects to bring in. That is what a deputy director is supposed to be doing. The director needs to be handling the day-to-day of the agency. The deputy...
Darrell?
Yes.
And in my opinion, what you're describing is someone that should work as a volunteer and not get paid, and they're in there for patriotic reasons, and they're there to help, and they're there to be to help the government and not be a burden on the government as far as pay is concerned. That's what I would do if I was in charge of this island.
Boy, you're gonna get 30, 40 people to be deputy directors for as an honorarium, or as an honorable title, and not a job.
Yeah, there are a lot of people that work for free. I do. I'm not a director, but I'm a part of a committee of equalization, and I don't get paid.
Oh, those are the board members. Those are the 943 board members that are drawn from the citizenry of our community to assist the governor to implement the laws of Guam.
Okay, well, I just was filling in some space. I just thought it was a pet peeve of mine. I thought I'd let you know. Apologize if I took up anybody else's time.
Apologize, my goodness. That's what I was hoping I'd hear. I was hoping I'd hear your pet peeve. Thank you very much. Mo, we'll pick this up. We'll pick this up again tomorrow. It is 5:59. Time to thank you very much for tuning in to Tall Tales this afternoon. I'm Darrell Taggarty, sitting in for Bob Klitzkie. He'll be back in 2 weeks. I'll be back here tomorrow afternoon at 4. See you then.
The Point is KUSG, Hagåtña, Guam, 93.3 FM and 104.3 HD3.
An actor accused of staging his own assault. I'm Carmen.